Cassius. The Inner Storm. Chapter 7. Cassius and the others sat on board the shuttle, Juro keeping a close eye on Tosa. Tosa, are these guys as good as you built them up to be?
I've only heard stories, but if half of what I've heard is true, they're the best option you have.
What kind of stories?
Apparently, Harbo Tyron and his men were single-handedly responsible for bringing down a notorious spice cartel on Malastair.
A few spice runners? That's hardly impressive.
A cartel of 200.
Cassius looked up. 200.
That's only what I've heard. It could be just a rumor, but their reputation precedes them, at least in the Outer Rim.
Cassius looked to Dravok. If these guys are as good as he's boasting, this may work.
There's just one problem. We'll have to let them in on our secrets sooner or later, and they may not be willing to take the risk. Even if they aren't, we can't let them leave.
I agree. Dravok looked surprised.
You're willing to kill them if need be?
We've come this far. I have enough blood on my hands. What's a little more if it means Vader dies? Dravok narrowed his eyes at Cassius as the shuttle made its approach to Blengio.
Wonderful. A dust ball. This should do wonders for my complexion.
Don't worry, Tosa. No amount of sun or heat could make you any uglier.
Tosa looked at Dravok and chuckled.
Still better looking than you.
The shuttle landed on the Praxium cruiser as they stepped out. Rondo and his men were there, helping themselves to pieces of valuable treasures. Rondo stepped forward holding a crate.
I see your venture was successful.
We'll find out soon enough. Tosa stepped off and glared at Rondo.
The Rhodian.
Cassius looked at Tosa with a stern expression. He's working with us. You lay a finger on him and you're done. Same goes for you, Rondo. Keep things professional.
I'd have it no other way.
Cassius walked over to the Rhodian scavenger. We're going to need some of the money you're getting from selling these parts to pay for the crew we hired.
That wasn't part of the deal, Urshan. You promised that we had free pickings of this cruiser.
I know. Just get us what we need and the entire ship is yours when we finish. Hell, you can have the planet if you want. Rondo looked at the cruiser and back to Cassius.
Fine, but no more alterations to our deal.
Fair enough. Juro sat under the wing of the shuttle, looking at a datapad.
Cassius, come here. I think I've figured something out.
Cassius walked over. What's up?
I think I figured out what happened with the other clones when the purge was initiated. I took a deep scan of my head, and I found this.
Juro showed the datapad to Cassius, an X-ray of Juro's head on the screen.
Look there, right towards the back. Do you see that?
Cassius looked closely and saw a dark spot buried deep in his brain. What am I looking at? Juro took the datapad and zoomed in with the enhanced image. A data chip, barely visible inside of his brain. What is that?
This is how it happened. This is why we couldn't disobey the order. That chip is some sort of neural inhibitor. When the order was given, it was impossible to resist. As soon as it was activated, the Jedi were the enemy. No questions asked.
Cassius looked at Juro and back to the datapad. Why didn't yours activate?
I have a theory. That mission to Kelja, the blast from the detonator sent my head flying back into a rock. I think the impact must have damaged the chip. I knew that something had changed after that. Those flashes, the blurry vision in battle. It wasn't just the injuries I sustained. It was the chip malfunctioning.
Cassius sat and thought. Who would have believed it? If things hadn't played out as they did, one of the two of them wouldn't be here. Either Juro would have killed him, or Juro would have died by his hand. Juro, Do you think this chip will be a problem?
What's that supposed to mean?
You know exactly what it means. Juro, if you think for any reason your chip might make you do something. Juro stood and pulled his datapad back.
You think I might betray you?
I didn't say that.
You're certainly implying it. I didn't turn my back on you at the temple. Not when you were helplessly clinging on to life. And not when you joined forces with Dravok. I've stuck by you through all of it, and you're questioning my loyalty?
I'm questioning your programming. That thing inside of your head could be a ticking time bomb. You know how delicate the situation is.
Maybe my programming isn't the issue, Cassius. Maybe it's you.
Me. How am I the problem here?
Look at you. Do you know who you remind me of right now? A certain friend of yours who killed my men and held me hostage. You're becoming paranoid. Dravok's training is turning you into something you're not.
His training is turning me into what I need to be to kill that monster. Corbin was controlled by his fear. I'm not. I'm the one in control of my fear. I'm in control. Juro stared at Cassius, whose fists were clenched in anger.
You keep telling yourself that. Keep telling yourself that's what Sarah would want.
Cassius grabbed Juro by his collar and threw him to the ground as the two began to fight.
You don't talk about her! Get off of me!
Dravok and Rondo heard the commotion and ran over, pulling the two apart.
That's enough! Cassius, go inside and wait until I call you.
Cassius looked into Dravok's eyes.
Don't order me around like I'm your Padawan. You're not my master.
Cassius gave Juro a cold stare before heading into the ship.
What was that about?
Juro glared at the former Jedi.
I hope you're happy. Your training is eating away at his soul. You think it's my training? All I've done is taught him how to harness his anger. But I didn't turn him into this. You know exactly what made him this way. Vader may have turned him into this. But you've only made it worse. If he doesn't learn to control himself, he's going to get himself killed. So you say. But what would a clone know of the ways of the Force? I know enough to see that this is wrong.
Juro went into the shuttle and continued to work as Cassius sat in meditation. His fists were still balled in anger.
Cassius.
I'm here, Master. Speak to me. Tell me what to do.
He heard nothing more as his eyes welled with tears.
Answer me!
The glass windows around him shattered as his emotions ran hot.
Cassius.
Dravok stood in the doorway and walked over.
Leave me alone. You will be alone if you keep this up. I told you to focus your rage into one person. One target. You're slipping. We're wasting time. You've trained me enough. I want him dead. I want to kill him.
Dravok stared at Cassius, who was breathing heavily, the dark circles under his eyes flowing with tears of anger.
I know you do. But if we rush off to find him now, we wouldn't stand a chance. I told you a long time ago that one day you would see what drives men to these lengths. You see it now. This plan will only work once all of the pieces are in place. If even a single part of the plan goes wrong, it will mean the death of us all. You already have enough guilt on your mind. Corbin, Kakuri, Sarah. Would you be able to live with yourself if you caused more death? If Juro were killed?
Cassius stared down at the floor.
Take the next day to compose yourself. Think. Think about why we're doing this, and more importantly, think about whose lives are at stake.
Dravok left Cassius alone with his thoughts. Over the next day, Cassius thought about what Dravok said. He didn't speak a word to anyone. Maybe he wasn't in control as he thought. Juro was right. If Sarah saw him now, she'd hate it. She'd hate seeing him reduced to what he was. Deep down, he hated it too. But he needed it. He needed to see it through. It was the only possible way he could ever forgive himself for his failure. Late in the evening, as Rondo and his crew sat around the fire telling stories, and Tosa slept on the wing of the shuttle, a ship flew towards them, sleek and shiny. It landed as Rondo and his men pulled out their weapons.
Easy. This is our crew.
Stepping out of the ship, Harbo and his team emerged, weapons and gadgets slung across their shoulders and onto their belts. Accompanying them were 2 more crew members they hadn't seen at the nightclub on Nar Shaddaa, a tall Ithorian and a Zabrakian female.
The crew of the Arabella has arrived. Who are these 2? Don't you worry. These 2 are every part of the team as myself.
Harbo gestured to the Ithorian.
This here is Kresh.
Kresh?
Well, if you want to get technical, his full name is Kresh Katakathnko. But we call him Kresh for brevity. And this,
he motioned to the Zabrakian.
This is Zaturi, best sniper in the galaxy. Or so I believe. Now, let's get to business. What's our target?
Sit down, and we'll explain. Cassius emerged from the ship as Harbo and his crew sat down, eyeing everyone carefully. Cassius walked over to the fire and stared at all of them. Everyone else here knows, so we might as well get this out of the way. Cassius removed his lightsaber and ignited the green blade, illuminating the area. Harbo and his men stared in shock and disbelief.
Jedi!
One of Harbo's men aimed his blaster as Dravok pulled it from his hand with the force. Harbo stood and pointed at the 2 of them.
I knew something was off about you 2.
Harbo's crew pulled out their weapons and aimed at Cassius before Rondo and all of his men aimed theirs along with Juro. Cassius turned off his lightsaber and threw it aside. Sit. Let me explain what's going on.
Why should we listen to you?
Because if you take the job we give you and join us, you'll never have to work a day in your lives when it's over. Harbo looked at his crew, and slowly, they lowered their weapons. My name is Cassius Urshan. Until a year ago, I was a Jedi Knight of the Republic. Until the Empire rose to power and eliminated almost every one of us. As it stands, there are almost no Jedi left alive in the galaxy. Those who have survived have gone into hiding. Not only to hide from the Empire, but the one responsible for hunting them down. Darth Vader. That is our target.
Darth Vader? Are you mad?
Dravok, I didn't sign up to go directly for the heart of the Empire. Neither did we. You conveniently left that information out, Cassius.
If we had told you right away, we wouldn't be here now. Many of you would have turned us over. But now you know. Darth Vader is responsible for the deaths of countless Jedi Knights, including some very close to me. I ask you this. How many of you have lost everything in a single day? Who among you has experienced the death of all of your friends, your loved ones, and your entire way of life in a matter of hours? That's what was taken from me. And now, justice must be delivered. Vader must be stopped. That's why we've gathered you all here.
This is lunacy. What chance will we have striking at the Empire's enforcer?
You're right. Not much of a chance. But you wouldn't be the ones to face him. Dravok stepped beside Cassius. We will. Rondo, you and your men have eyes all throughout the galaxy. What we require from you and your men is information, whereabouts of Vader and his men, and anything else that could prove useful in helping us track him down. Tosa, you and your brothers nearly destroyed the Jedi Temple using explosives and poisons. You know where to find more, and how to cause the most damage while keeping collateral impact minimal. Harbo, if what I've heard of you and your crew is true, you're some of the most skilled and efficient hitmen and bounty hunters in the galaxy. With your firepower and combative experience along with Juro's knowledge of battlefield tactics, you could turn the tide of this operation and give Dravok and I the opportunity we need to take Vader out. Our odds aren't great, but there is a chance, and it's one we have to take. If we're successful, none of you will ever have to worry about credits or work again. I know I'm asking for miracles. I know you would all rather leave and forget any of this happened. But I'm asking, I'm pleading for you to assist us. Help us kill this monster before his evil can take the lives of others. No matter what you choose, I will go after Vader. There's no other option for me. The choice was never there. This is the only way. Harbo looked at his crew, as did Rondo, as they talked amongst themselves. Juro stepped forward.
I followed you this far. I'll stand by you, Commander.
Cassius smiled to Juro and put his hand on his shoulder. Rondo stood.
If information is what you seek, we will do what we can.
Harbo sighed and looked at Cassius.
You realize our rates have tripled for this, right? If you're willing to pay, we'll see it done.
No way! Count me out!
Dravok turned to Tosa.
Very well. Of course we can't have you run into the Empire, can we?
Dravok grabbed Tosa and held him over the sands as the burrowers below rustled.
It was a joke! I'm in!
That's what I thought.
Dravok dropped Tosa back onto the ship as the Trandoshan sneered. Cassius looked upon his team. It's settled then. Until Vader is vanquished, we're in this together. Rondo, get some rest. You and your men will head out at first light. Find out everything you can about Vader, and any notable Imperial activity. Harbo, you and your men will start training tomorrow. As good as you are now, we need you in peak condition when the time comes. May the Force be with us. The group disbanded to their ships as Cassius looked out over the dark, endless sea of sand. The pieces were starting to come together.